Hello mates, welcome to Budgie Keat Gaming. I'm your host Finley. 2025 has been a hell of a year for video games in general, but it's been especially great for fans of horror games and spooky games alike. Now, I know, a lot of people consider horror and spooky the same thing. Well, I don't, and I'll explain the difference. Horror is something that is going to scare the shit out of you, or at the very least, make you feel very uncomfortable. Games such as Alan Wake 2, Slay the Princess, Silent Hill, and Milk Inside a Bag do this very well. Spooky is something that can be slightly scary or unnerving, but not full-on horror. It can even be something that is cozy, but still has a Halloween vibe in some shape or form. Examples would be games like Oxenfree, Costume Quest, Pumpkin Jack, Night in the Woods, or even Hollow Knight and Castlevania, since they're horror adjacent without being scary. While there is a lot of overlap between the horror games and spooky games I just mentioned, I feel like a lot of people will either like one set of games or the other, which is why I'm doing separate videos for scary and spooky. If you're wanting to see the spooky video that I'll be releasing soon, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll know when it is released. This list is in no order, and every game was released on consoles this year. All right now, onto the list. The first game on the list is Centum, and boy is it a weird one. This might be a pixel art game, but don't let that fool you. This game will definitely make you feel uncomfortable with its bizarre art direction and disturbing imagery. This game isn't so much a jump scare type game, even though it can definitely get you a few times, but it is more in line with a slow burn psychological horror game. It's basically a point and click game with some fairly difficult puzzles to solve. The entire game is pretty abstract, everything from the story, characters, and even some of the puzzles themselves. If you're not much of a puzzle fan, there are tons of guides online, so you can breeze right through them so you can enjoy the uncomfortable creepiness this game has to offer. Depending on how good you are at puzzle solving, the game is only 5 to 7 hours, which is great if you're wanting to knock out multiple scary games this month. The next game on the list is Chronos: The New Dawn, which was actually just released last month. This is made by the same team who made the Silent Hill 2 remake that was released last year. After making one of the best horror games in recent memory, I was honestly disappointed they weren't making another Silent Hill game. While Chronos doesn't quite live up to the quality of the Silent Hill 2 remake, it is still a fantastic game in its own right. With its creepy atmosphere, disturbing enemy morphing, and Dead Space-like gameplay, I can see this becoming a horror franchise staple within the next few years. And let's face it, we are in desperate need of a Dead Space replacement since EA's becoming a bigger pile of shit with every passing month. So if you would like to see the possibility of having a Dead Space clone, definitely support this one and pick it up, just not the Switch 2 version since it is a game keycard. Next up, we will just get the most obvious title out of the way, which is Silent Hill F, another amazing horror game that was released in September. Sadly, I haven't had a chance to play this game yet, but come on, it's a Silent Hill game sitting in the high 80s on Metacritic. It's bound to be amazing. And who wouldn't be intrigued by the new setting? Even though the setting changed, the creepiness and disturbing creatures are still here, such as these weird, disjointed monsters that rival the creepiness of the nurses in past games. If you're looking to try what is arguably the most creepy game and probably the best reviewed horror game of 2025, Silent Hill F will most likely be the perfect fit for you. Next up, which is actually one of my favorites on the list, is Sorry, We're Closed. This is a very weird one. This game is very much its own thing, but it's kind of like old school Resident Evil games mixed with the bizarre style of Killer 7. While Sorry, We're Closed won't give you jump scares, it'll make you feel very uncomfortable with its disturbing and weird visuals. It's a very disorienting game, but in a good, creepy way. This game isn't just one of the most bizarre games on the list, it's probably one of the most bizarre games of the year, and I absolutely love it for that. If you're looking for something creepy, yet totally different from your average zombie or monster game, then this one is definitely worth checking out. Next up is 2D survival horror Dead of Darkness. Unfortunately, this is another game I haven't been able to play yet, but it's been getting great reviews, with most reviewers giving it praise for its challenging gameplay and the fact that it is basically a 2D love letter to the earlier Resident Evil games. Much like Resident Evil, you'll be managing dwindling ammo, solving puzzles, and deciding if you should fight an enemy or save your ammo and run. If you're craving some old-school Resident Evil gameplay, then this game will most likely be worth your time. Next on the list is Hellblade 2. I know this was released last year for Series X and PC, but it was released on the PS5 this year, and it is an incredibly disturbing game that should be played by all horror fans. I know all horror games are better when played with a headset, but this game takes it to an entirely new level. Do keep in mind that this game is slow-paced, even by horror standards, and has a lot in common with walking simulators, with some combat areas. The game is more about experiencing the story, atmosphere, and disturbing horror. And while it wasn't released this year, the first game of the series is worth a playthrough as well. If you're in the mood for more of a slow burner horror, then this one is definitely worth your time. Next up is another fantastic game that I just recently completed, and that is Vlad Circus: Curse of Asmodeus. This 2.5D pixel game won't give you any jump scares, but it will definitely make you feel very uncomfortable. And without spoiling anything, it'll make you feel like shit at one point. I did a full review of this game along with its predecessor, which came out just a few years ago. If you'd like to check out my full thoughts, I'll leave the link down in the description below. But if you want the short and sweet version, play both games. You won't regret it. Next on the list is Alien Rogue Incursion. It's from the Alien franchise, one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time, so obviously it is going to be pretty creepy. And this game definitely delivers. This game is set in between the first and second movie, so this could be a good pickup if you're dying to get more backstory from the franchise. There are a few issues with the game, most notably being the game was originally a VR game. Since it is designed with VR in mind, some of the scares might not work as well without VR. And while this game is scary, it isn't nearly as terrifying or disturbing as most of the games on the list. However, it does offer some solid gameplay, creepy atmosphere, and iconic enemies that are seen in the movies. If you're a fan of the Alien franchise or want more action in your horror games, then this one will be a perfect pickup for you. It's also pretty short, so it could be a game you complete on Halloween night. Next on the list is Luto, a psychological horror game where you're trapped inside a creepy house and can't escape. Every time you try to escape, you're sent deeper into the unknown. Sound familiar? If it does, it is probably because this game is heavily inspired by PT, the cult classic horror game that never got to be fully released. Ever since, fans have been dying to get their hands on games that offer similar experiences. I've read some comments that say this game also feels like a creepy version of Stanley Parable. So if you're a fan of PT and Stanley Parable and want a short and creepy experience, then Luto looks like it'll be well worth its $20 asking price. Going in the complete opposite direction of Luto, we have Dying Light: The Beast. There is no slow burn or psychological horror here. This is an all-gore fest with lots of action. But don't let the over-the-top gameplay fool you. This game can definitely get creepy. And honestly, this game has to be talked about, but it sure as hell isn't making the spooky list. I will say that while this game can get creepy, don't expect Luto or Silent Hill F level of creepiness or scares, because it honestly feels like an action game first and a horror game second. This is a great pickup if you're wanting more action in your horror or want to play a horror game with friends this Halloween season. Sticking with the co-op horror theme, we have System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Remaster. Finally, a way to play this cult classic on modern hardware. While parts of this game might feel dated, especially when compared to other games on this list, System Shock 2 is a must-play for anyone craving a sci-fi horror experience this Halloween season. Not to mention, this is a must-play if you're a fan of the BioShock series, as BioShock was the spiritual successor to System Shock 2. This game will be a great fit for you if you're looking for a shooter, but not quite as fast-paced as the new Dying Light or Alien game. Next up is Slender Thread, which actually might be the most beautiful-looking game on the list, which says a lot because Silent Hill F is absolutely gorgeous. This point-and-click adventure game is very interesting because it's a genuinely dark and creepy game with an atmosphere that was far creepier than I had expected, but it uses a lot of humor, which helps lighten the mood a little bit. I would say this game walks a fine line between scary and spooky, but probably leans a little harder into the horror aspects. If you're looking for a point-and-click adventure this Halloween, then look no farther than Slender Thread. Now, before I get to the last game, I know there are some very obvious games that should have been on the list but are not. Those games will be mentioned in my spooky video along with many other games, so be sure to be on the lookout for that video. With that said, last on the list is slightly cheating since it doesn't release for another few weeks, but it will release before Halloween, and that is the survival horror Tormented Souls 2. Much like the original game of the series, this game is heavily inspired by the classic Resident Evil and Silent Hill games. The first game has a cult following who are eagerly awaiting this sequel. If it turns out as well as the first, then I think it will definitely be worth checking out. I talked about this game in my recent 10 Scary Games releasing in October 2025. I'll leave the link in the description and as a pinned comment if you would like to check that video out. And there you have it. 13 of the best horror games released in 2025 that are sure to scare the shit out of you this Halloween or whenever you decide to play them. I know it seems a tad premature to release a video like this with 2 months left in the year, but looking at the release schedule, the only game I see that might be added to this list would be Demon School, which I'm doubting it'll be very scary anyway. Unless there are some horror hidden gems coming out within the next 2 months, I really don't see this list changing much, if at all. And again, be on the lookout for the top spooky games released in 2025. And if you like this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, because there'll be a lot of videos like this with the end of the year quickly approaching. Until next time, take care, mates!